everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. Today I'm excited to be unboxing Triplock, and this is like the entire package of Triplock. Finally made its way up to Canada here. I'm really excited to open this up, show you guys what it's all about, because we did a Kickstarter preview as well as a playthrough when it was in its earlier stages. So this is me finally being able to take a look at the final product after the Kickstarter, which was extremely successful and also, delivered in a very quick time frame. So kudos to the guys at Chip Theory Games for that. I'm really excited to open this stuff up and see what the final product is like compared to what I saw in the earlier versions of this in the prototype. So, and hopefully this will also give you guys a good idea as to whether or not this is something you guys want to pick up or not. It plays 1 to 2 player, and I think can also scale up even further than that, depending on how you go about it. But 1 to 2, I believe, is what BGG at least rates this for, and for me, solo play kind of is where it's at. But the 2-player game definitely pulls at me a little bit to try this out with some friends. So, anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to move all this stuff out of the way. Start with the base game of Triplock. These right here are the solo packs, so specific to solo play. There are solo pack 2, 3, and 4. Obviously the first one's inside the box, so this gives you a full kind of campaignish scenario, or multiple different scenarios I should say, that you can play through solo. This Deluxe Play Mat is not necessary, but really does enhance the game's look and feel. Gives you a really nice neoprene playmat that's really cool, and I'll show you that in a bit. And essentially the playmat that comes inside this box then fits inside of this one. So it's really interesting. So let's go ahead and move all this other stuff out of the way, and what we're going to do is start off with the base game. You can see the base game by itself is actually not that big of a box. It's like the size of my hand, which is kind of nice to have a game that comes in that's not absolutely massive, take up too much shelf space, so it's a good portable game. So basically I'm just going to cut this side open so you guys can kind of see, and doing that on camera, I don't know why, but maybe so you could see my cutting skills, although that was pretty pathetic. So here we go, we're going to cut into this. I'm going to rip the plastic off and we'll see what we got here. Okay, it's actually quite a heavyweight game. Oh, that's nice. I didn't know it was going to have nice glossy sheen in the center there. So the chip, essentially, that's like what you'd be using the entire game long, has a nice glossy look to it. That's really good production. So the box itself is really nice. It has all little chips shown on the side here that you're going to be using. Of course, it's Chip Theory Games, so that's their thing. Even this one here on the side, I think, is embossed. Is it? No, I'm crazy. That's not. Keep going around. A game by Adam Carlson and Josh Carlson. 1 to 2 players, 10 to 15 minutes, and ages 12 plus. So that's really cool to have a game that's, again, not a very big footprint on the table. Of course, if you get the Deluxe Mat, then that changes things. So what we'll do here is we'll take the top off this box, see what's inside. Alright, so looks like right off the top here we got the rulebook, and it's version 1.1. So they have made one update to it already, at least, from initially at least. So we go in here, open it up. Nice quality paper. This reminds me of Too Many Bones in terms of its glossiness and quality, but looks like it's pretty good. It's not a long one, so that's nice. Total rulebook pages are about 15 pages. Has some nice artwork in there as well. Some really nice artwork, actually. So there you go. There's some talk about the solo episodes for those of you that are curious about that, and that's kind of the key of the channel, is to show you guys the solo play. So has the station and the factory built into it. I think if I remember correctly, the station is kind of your tutorial. Factory might be the first episode, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then those episodes I showed you in packs at the beginning of this video essentially add to that. So very cool, and you can read this actually even on camera right now. Again, goes through all the different rules and things like that. A good spacing and pace between the rulebook, it seems. There are some pages that have some decent amount of text, but again, the rulebook's really small. It's kind of like a booklet, so not too bad. Probably get through that. And again, there will be some updates. So if you're watching this video and then you jump into my playthrough, you're going to notice that some things have changed rules-wise. So they made a couple adjustments about how chips are rotated and some other things like that I played differently when I did my Kickstarter preview. So just take note of that that playthrough that I did at that particular time was prior to the official rulebook being confirmed or done. So that's one thing. Moving on, we've got what looks like the solo scenarios right here. I could be wrong. This could actually be for 2-player as well. Let's see here. So we've got a package of high-quality boards. This reminds me so much of Too Many Bones in terms of quality, because I can tell these things are super thick and durable. They look like the ones that are water resistant as well, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, definitely. Oh, I love these. I love the way they do these. They're like kind of a double-sided. There's two textures to them essentially. So here's the front section of it. Very glossy, high sheen. Colors come out really well. Like you can see, the color printing is amazing. This one's called the Station, and if you flip over to the back side, it's very much like Too Many Bones. It has that gritty side to it, which is really nice textured side. Again, it gives you a full rundown of that particular station. So that's the first one there. This is the one I believe we played through the Kickstarter Preview. Again, you've got all your different individuals that you can play as. So this guy here is the Safecracker Axe. You've got Dr. Elliot. You've got Dante Harvard. You've got Elizabeth Watkins. And again, the art's really good. Like really high quality. Interesting. A secret agent. That's awesome. And they have a really cool backstory too, which is nice. It kind of gives you a little bit about your character so you can kind of get into it. Charlie here. So that's really interesting. So there's how many? There's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, I think. 6 different ones. Yeah, it looks like. So I think if I remember correctly, we played as Axe during the Kickstarter preview, and it was a lot of fun. So we'll put those aside for a second, and now we're going to take a look at the actual box contents. So what comes in your box game, of course, is going to be a couple beads, and everything in this box has a place. So that's really nice. I'll show you a quick closer look at the insert. Really well done, tightly packaged. You've got your neoprene mat here, which is standard for the base game. You've got your chips here. Now, Chip 3 Games is known for their chips. That's one of their biggest draws. They have really fantastic high-quality chips, and they look fantastic on the table. And we all know this from games like Too Many Bones and Hoplomachus, where they do some incredible work there. So basically, I'm just going to cut these open really quick and show you an example. I may not open both packages, but I'll open up this one here and show you. But they all have nice heavy weight to them. Of course, the backs and stuff like this on these, and that's part of the gameplay, is the backs on these are different. This is so that you essentially are trying to memorize backs of chips to what they actually are on the other side. So essentially, if you find out during the gameplay that these are gears, you're going to flip this over and you're going to be doing everything in your power to try to remember that this symbol is gears. And the fun part is that there's multiple different backings on these ones, so very easily after a couple shuffles around, you start wondering whether the one you were looking at was gears, and it's very easy it's actually surprisingly easy to forget what's actually on the back of these. So there's different ones, and if you flip them over, they all have different symbols on the back. Very cool. So actually these ones are very similar, but I think it's these ones that are the main ones here. If I remember correctly, it was actually quite a while ago that I did this playthrough, so I've actually haven't played it since the prototype. So I'm going to need to even refresh myself a little bit on the rules and the symbols, but I'm really looking forward to doing that with the final product. So here's the ones with the actual symbols, essentially, that you're trying to remember and stuff like that. So you got like push, pull, things like that, keypad, lock, things like that. So on the opposite side, things are a little different. So these are the ones that flip, and essentially how the game works is you have like 2 of these, for instance. And you'll sandwich these in between them, so it'll kind of play like this. It looks like an Oreo, almost a yellow Oreo. So you got different symbols on either side, and of course, if you flip it one side and you reveal it, you know there's a lock there. But if you flip it the opposite side, it's totally different. It's levers or something. So very different, interesting gameplay that way. So some chips, very cool. Again, high quality stuff from them. So I like their chips a lot. Their dice are actually really cool as well. So even the ones that come in the base game, very high quality, very much like the Too Many Bones dice. So screen printed on the die, and then of course a regular D6. But that's a little bit more colorful and thematic, so it kind of has a nice marbly look to it in the inside. So that's cool. We got a chip here, or a counter I should say. I think there's just one. I could be wrong. There might be 2 beads in here actually. These are pretty big, actually. Might have to get the cards out first. So let's take these out. Yeah, it's easier to get these are big. Whoa, that's a large chip. Holy. So these are some counters for the game. So you get one that's kind of a silver color, and then one that's kind of tinted a little bit yellow. Those are some large beads. So those are interesting. And then we've got a bunch of cards and the mat. So we'll do the cards first, because the card should show you at least. See here. Alright, so you've got in the base game, you've got yourself a whole ton of these particular cards here. So all these cards are really fancy. It's going to be hard for me to explain this on camera, so because it's an unboxing, I'm not going to explain what these are. If you want to know more about what these are, go check out my Kickstarter preview as I explain how they work and what they're all about. But essentially, you've got a whole bunch of these, and as you can see, they kind of, they're worth different points. You're trying to do either one of these sides. Basically, you look at each side of the card, and they can contain a certain value of points if you accomplish them, things like that. So you go ahead. These are basically diagrams. That's what essentially they're called. But you'll find out more if you check out the Kickstarter preview that I made. You got some traps in there, which are bad, do bad things. So this will be a deck of diagrams essentially that sit beside the game. And then you get into your character cards themselves. So you've got character, and these are kind of like special abilities that each character can do. So each person has kind of a special that somebody else can't do, makes them unique. You've got your round counters. These are where the beads come into play. So you start putting the beads on those for points in rounds. Countermeasures, a whole reference card on that. And if you flip over to the other side, you've got traps. You've got mechanisms. If you flip this over, you got your actions. So these are nice reference cards to help you remember what is what or what they're called. The station, so this is room number 1. This is the one we did. We did room number 1. If I'm not mistaken, we might have gone to room number 2 as well. And then there was 3 and 4. So to finish the station, you got to do all 4 rooms. That's what comes in the base game. This is the neoprene mat. As you can see, it's tightly packaged together, so that's really good. That's actually a really cool casing, by the way. You can kind of see there's a cap on the top and a cap on the bottom, so you can keep it in this, and it simply just pulls off. You can just take this little, you can actually reuse that and put it back on. So you just take it off, give it a couple pats with the wrist, and the whole thing flops right out. Pretty easy. And then you lay it on the table. Very nice. It looks really nice too. So if we go like that, and of course, because it's been rolled up in transit, so the edges will be curled a little bit at the beginning, but as you're using it, and if you'd even laid it out for a bit and put something heavy on it, being that this is a neoprene mat, this would lay perfectly flat in no time. So already, it's pretty much laying flat. Of course, you can even put some chips on it, and bam, you're starting to flatten out the edges. But this is where essentially you'd have, you know, chips like this, and they'd be sitting in these positions. So basically you have a bunch of these chips and they're rotating on the mat. If you want to find out more about the gameplay, again, check out my Kickstarter playthrough. This is really cool though. Like it's interesting. Like again, it didn't change too much from the Kickstarter preview because I had this neoprene mat when I was playing this before. So a lot of the production for me is, I'm used to this because I got this as a part of the Kickstarter preview. I got these chips. So in other words, their Kickstarter prototype was so high-end already. The only thing I didn't get really when I was doing the Kickstarter preview was I didn't get the actual box itself. So in other words, it's really just the final packaging that I'm seeing that's any different. And the card stock of the actual cards and things like that are much better quality than they were before. And the beads are even better as well. So, and of course you get the rulebook that's printed and things like that. So this is kind of the stuff that I'm familiar with because of the prototype did such a good job of that. You guys saw that as well, so go check it out if you want to. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of push all this stuff off to the side, and we're going to open up what's called solo packs. Now this is area that I'm not familiar with. I did not get to see any of these solo packs. These were a result of the Kickstarter themselves. So this is going to be whole new territory even for me because, like I said, I was able to essentially play this in its prototype form. So let's get those to the table and see what they look like. So we've got a number of packs here. So we've got, let's see, this is Solo Pack 2, and it's called The Factory. So I'll give you a closer look at it. Packaging on it almost makes me not want to open it, it's so nice. And on the back side, it lets you know what's inside. Large location card, character skill card, and 5 room cards. You've got a Solo Pack 3 and 4. So you can, this is kind of how you can expand your gameplay. So again, you don't have to get this if you're interested in Triplock. You can just go with the base game. That's good enough. These are just going to add to your experience, give you more. So we're going to go ahead and tear into these, take a look at what's inside. So really handy little tearaway area there. So I'm just going to try to do this without, make sure everything's at the bottom before I tear. Don't want to accidentally rip anything open. Okay, that's perfect. So I'll split this right down. That actually opens really nice. And everything's sealed up inside of a baggie anyway, so that's even better. Cards the same thing, and that's it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm just going to put it off to the side. We're going to go through the contents of Solo Pack number 2, The Warehouse. So it looks like there's actually some, there's a new character in this one. So this might be coming from the Kickstarter itself in terms of giving you another player that you can use. So that's really cool. Now I just got to find the edge where I can open this. There we go. So Tear that open. Awesome. What do we got here? Okay, so we have, interesting, the Demonologist. Cool. I really like the art on that. That's really good. The art on all these is really fantastic. So another character to play. That's really cool. Love it. Really cool. All right, awesome. So I've never used this character, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And then, of course, the factory card itself, very similar to what we saw with the station card. So again, some text about what's going on with the factory, and then the whole rundown before you begin. It says right here, there's even something for solo challenge, proceed to the factory room 1, 7 character limit for episode, things like that. So you'll see what that's all about when you start reading through it, but this is going to give you a whole other episode to play through, as well as some cards. So let's take a look at what cards we get. We're obviously going to get cards that have to do with the factory scenario, as well as, from what I understand, the new character. So here's our new character, looking extremely intense. And again, a new character trait for her. And then, of course, the factory has multiple rooms. Oh, that's really cool. So there's actually quite a few rooms, 5 of them, even more so than the base game. I think, I don't know how many it was again, maybe 3 or 4. But this one has 5 rooms, so that's really good. That's awesome. That's some quality stuff right there. So basically you go through all these 5 rooms, and each one will show you the goal, the lock, the room. So on the flip side of each of these cards, there's more information on how to set them up. But that's a great addition. So that's really cool. That's going to have to be merged into the base game. Okay, so next up, I'm going to crack into solo episode number 3. Do the exact same thing. Split this along the top. See what's inside. Oh, so cool. Oh, this is awesome. I really like this. I think I'm going to like this character, at least the way it looks anyway, I think. Let's see here. Oh, this guy's pretty cool. Interesting. Scientist. Zedric Castle. He's an interesting character. Wow. Very cool artwork. Okay, and there he is there. And yeah, full-on story for him that you can read if you'd like. Right here, the Royal HQ. Looks so cool. Wow, the artwork is just insanity. It's so nice. I love the feeling of these cards. The other thing I love about them is how indestructible they are. Like, you can fully bend them over, and they don't bend. Like, they're made of solid material. And again, the great thing is you can spill stuff all over them too, and they don't get destroyed. I love the quality. Okay, character cards for this solo pack. We have, of course, a number of rooms for the Royal HQ. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then, of course, Zedric Castle's actual card. And the player ability, if like this can actually focus, you can see it. There you go. And then, yeah, character card. So this is going to get added in for sure with the rest of the stuff. So let's move on to the last solo pack. And again, I don't know, Chip Theory Games may be thinking of expanding this game in the future. I could see how they easily could by just adding a simple pack. So it's not out of question that they could add more in the future, even outside the Kickstarter. But typically with Chip Theory Games, I think they do most of their stuff through a Kickstarter. So if they did another Triplock one, I'm sure there'd be more content coming that way. So this one's called the Estates Solo Pack number 4. And I didn't really show you the cover of the other one, but it's very similar to the art. But again, very nice. The bags are also really high quality, like really nice. Okay, so this is Solo Pack number 4 called the Estates. So let's see what's in this one. Oh, that's pretty cool. Lottie Wentworth. This is a cool character too. And actually, they're all cool. I don't think there's a single one of these things I wouldn't want to, one of these guys I wouldn't want to play, guys or girls. So this is Lottie Wentworth. Again, extremely cool artwork. Really nice. Like, wow. It's impressive. So, again, a nice story background there as well. Character kind of ID picture there. She's obviously wears goggles of some type, and I'm sure that that's talked about in this story here. The Estates, there you go. So there's the particular new solo campaign there, and then again it tells you what to do with the Estates and how many character limit you have. A bunch of other information about that. Awesome. That'll be cool to dig into. And then let's take a look quickly at the cards. So we've got her actual card itself. So Lottie Wentworth. Very cool. The estates, room 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There you go. That's all of them. That's really cool. So again, on the back of each of these things, you got rules, goals, challenge mode, success, all that good stuff. I'm not going to spoil all of that for you, but this is essentially, you're going to get this many rooms in this pack. So I think 2 of the 3 packs had 5 rooms and 1 of them had 4. So it looked like it was episode 2 and 4 had 5 rooms and episode 3 had 4 rooms. So that's also, I'm going to have to merge that in as well. So that's really cool. All right, let's talk about the Deluxe Play Mat and Game Storage Solution for Triplock. This is called quality. Look at this thing. It's got caps on either side that spin, so you can take the playmat out on either end. It's even got a strap for carrying it to your buddy's place or anywhere. You can store it straight up and down like a tube. It's awesome. This thing is, I mean, every playmat, it would be fantastic if I had a case like this for every playmat I have. It'd be so easy to store them. But the thing that's really cool about it's not only is the printing on it actually really nice, but there's also caps on both sides, so you can open it from either end. So typically once you open up an end, as you can see, there's still some space in there, so you could jam some other stuff in there. Technically, if you were taking this game somewhere and you really wanted to, you could actually push it all the way in, and you've got about that much space in the tube, and you could probably put a deck of cards that would fit in there. You could probably put some dice, the chips. You could probably take just this game storage mat and walk to your friend's house with it, which is really interesting. So there's one other addition to this that I totally forgot about and I wanted to show you guys, and that's this right here. This container also comes with the Deluxe Play Mat, and this space that I showed you earlier in the video, yes, you can just take your dice or anything else for Triplock and drop it in, but then of course there's a risk that it could go down right through the center into the Deluxe Play Mat and kind of get lost. So this actual container right here comes with the Deluxe Play Mat and goes in like this to sit inside. So not only are you storing your neoprene mat, but you're also able to store anything you want inside of this. So it can include cards if they fit, or some dice if you don't want them to drop down too far. Beads are another option. If you have beads, you can drop them in. Take game components out of the Triplock case that you want, put them in here. Once they're in here, you drop them in like that, and you've got everything inside of your tube ready to go, and you can take this to your friend's house or anywhere where you want to play. Pretty cool if you ask me. Anyway, we're not here to talk about the storage, it's more so about what's inside this tube. So we're going to pull this mat out, and this is the Deluxe Play Mat for Triplock, and it is a beast. So let's do this. Wow, this is actually going to give you guys a look at kind of how this mat essentially looks, even for Too Many Bones, because you'll notice here there's stitching on the outsides, and that's something that's coming with the Too Many Bones Undertow campaign. They really push to have the stitching along the outside edges of this entire playmat, just to give it kind of a clean and also to kind of protect, you're not only protecting the edges of the playmat, but it also just gives a nice finish to it instead of it just being cut off at the ends. The stitching really adds a nice color to the mat, and it also matches, so it just looks cool. It's kind of an aesthetic thing. So we're going to go ahead and take the packaging off, because it'll probably look much better with all the sheen of the plastic sitting on it. This is one of the coolest things I think about Triplock is this playmat, because I think it really adds to the game. That is so awesome. Okay, so essentially you've got a playmat here, and I don't know if there's differences. Oh, that's right. Now this is what I totally forgot. So they were smart enough to essentially create a 2-player system here. So this is a setup essentially for a 2-player game. So I'm going to zoom out just a bit so we can see all of it. So this is kind of the setup for a 2-player game. You can have your diagrams here and here. You've got all your actions and what you can do. You've got your mechanisms over here, your points over here. I'm going to give you guys a quick zoom in so you can actually see, because I don't want you to miss out on any of the actual detail of the playmat. So you got your mechanisms, your diagrams. Your actions are below those. Over here, you have completed diagrams. You have disarm failsafes, your failsafe discards, your character cards, diagram discards. You got character cards over here, diagram, and again, because you're doing, like, it's a 2-player mat, you've kind of got a split of both. And essentially, the other side is exactly the same carbon copy, so that the other player has the same spots for their type of material that they have. Now what's really cool is the fact that this is all cut out to fit the base game Triplock mat inside of it. So you simply take the mat that came with Triplock and you go like this, and you just pop it into the center. Now at the beginning of this, it's not going to be, because this isn't actually cut perfectly flat, it's not going to go right to the edges just yet. So you can see there's a little bit of a gap on either side. But the reason for that is, again, partially because this thing's not flat, so it's bubbling up. But once it actually does go flat, but for the most part, that's the look. And it looks really cool. It just sits inside of it. Now you've got your main game board area here, plus all kinds of areas for other things to sit. Looks really, really cool. Now, this is where things get really interesting. And this is more exciting for the solo player, because most of us at Rolling Solo are going, well, what about the solo play? Because 2 players is nice to have. It's nice to know we can play with our friends or family, but I want to play solo. Well, if you do, you simply take this out like this, take it out, and then you flip to the other side, and you've got co-op and solo diagram areas right like this. So you've got the entire thing to yourself. Now you've got a playmat that's specifically made for you to play the game by yourself. That is awesome. So now you're going to go ahead and chuck your mat inside of this cutout area, and just like that, you've got yourself a full solo setup. You've got the diagram deck over here, solo characters here, solo diagrams here. You've got your actions down here, your solo disarmed failsafe. You got your mechanisms across the bottom here for reference. So again, those reference cards become a little useless now. You get the mat, because now this stuff is referenced right on the mat itself. Co-op disarms, co-op diagrams. So this is really cool because you can essentially play true solo with this, with one solo character. You can play co-op. So you can mix and match. They really allowed for both with this mat, and that's really smart design. There's so many times where you typically pick up a playmat and it's just one-sided. It only does one thing, and you have to make it work for every situation, or buy multiple playmats. They just said, hey, buy one playmat, you get everything in one. And I think that's why this stitching works even better too, is because now that they're actually printing on both sides, it also really finalizes the mat and makes it look really, really nice. So as you can see, there's some extremely nice threading. I'll bring this up close so you guys can actually see it for those of you that aren't familiar, but it's really, really nice. And it shines, and if the camera's picking it up correctly, it's very nice stitching across. So there's no loose ends on it. It's not going to fray, which is another thing that's really cool. You can be a little rough. It's durable. And it just looks awesome on the table. So again, you've got player completed diagrams up here, your points tracker. You could use your bead here. You could use your bead on the round. You got bead on, so you got points over here, rounds. You can beads for all those. You got your diagram discards up here. Royal company diagrams, player completed diagrams. It just looks so awesome. Like, it's such a great mat. And I can't wait to play with this solo like this. It just makes the game, it just boosts it. It just takes it from... So by itself, you take this mat away, still fantastic. Still really cool to have this as your base area. And of course, all the quality components and stuff like this are really going to show up nicely on the mat as you're playing through it. But in terms of the actual look and feel of it, when you throw something like this over top of it, it just adds a whole bunch of... I don't know, it pops. There's no other way to say it. And I don't think there's anything better than a really good playmat for a game. It just really adds to it. And also takes away a lot of the silly references, so you have it all on your mat. Anyway, that's essentially Triplock unboxing end to end. Now I do have a special item I want to throw in here. This is really cool, and it was actually not available during the Kickstarter, and this is going to be an item that's going to be available after the Kickstarter. So if you were one of those people that picked up Triplock and picked up everything, there is going to be an additional item that they've created after the Kickstarter to enhance Triplock even more, and that is this right here. It's kind of a surprise for you guys, but essentially it's called the Triplock Alloy Dice. So these are some seriously heavy-duty dice. This one is comes with 2 custom action dice that are really cool looking, and then 1 solo D6 and of course they're all weighted and stuff like that. So we're going to tear into this and take a look at what these things are. So I'm really excited for this because their dice have always been extremely high quality. So, oh, that's awesome. So not only is it some dice, but you're getting a Triplock bag. So there's like a little bag that you can basically keep them stored inside of. That's really, I didn't even know that was part of the whole thing, so that was a smart decision. Each die is individually wrapped because of, well, they're insanely high quality in the first place. And, oh, these feel great. Okay, let's crack one of these open one at a time and I'll show you each one. So they're going to replicate the same ones that came in the base game, so you're not going to see anything different here. So if you get the base game, you've got the dice you need. These are just going to enhance the experience, and they also add a little bit when playing on a playmat. You guys would know this from Too Many Bones. If you have weighted dice on a playmat, it just sounds cool. So these are the base dice that came in the Triplock. This is one of the replacement alloy dice for one of the dice in here, or one of the dies in here. So essentially this guy here would be replacing this one. And you can see there's a difference in terms of how they're cut, how they look. There's a difference in how they sound. This one sounds like this. And this one sounds like this. Much heavier, like has a real heavy weight to it. So I love heavyweight dice because they just sound awesome. Next one to replace the yellow is, it actually kind of looks like a gold. So they went gold with the, so instead of going with the this yellow one here, oh sorry, maybe I made I might have made a mistake there actually. Sorry, this one replaces, I gotta make sure I'm looking at the right one here. I actually don't know. These are tougher to discern. Well, the easiest way to say it is, here are the two dice that come in the game for Triplock, and here's our two replacements. That's the best way to say it. So, and they are different shades. So the camera's not picking it up very well, but this one's really high sheen and glossy, and this one's really kind of bland. So in terms of determining which is which, that's how you determine it. I'd have to go through, because the faces are all different, I'd have to compare side by side as to which is which. But you'll see them off camera much easier. It just looks a little different here. But they're awesome, and they're weighted really heavily, which is cool. So you'd be rolling like these, they just sound awesome. And then of course you get a D6, which is a really high quality D6. So really, the D6 is kind of like a nice to have. I can actually use this really in any game I want, but it's a nice heavy D6. So that's really cool. So now I've got a whole bunch, and I've always liked, just like in Hoplomachus, if you get their alloy dice, it just sounds awesome on a neoprene mat. The sound of them just sounds amazing. So this is just an upgrade you can get if you'd like. You don't need it. This one here, these dice that come in the base game are good enough, like any other dice. But if you want to go the extra mile and have the, the best quality components you can have, then you can pick up the alloy dice. They also come with this really fancy Triplock bag that you can store them in. That's pretty much it. That is all for Triplock currently available. And if there is anything in the future, I'll be looking to pick it up and I'll be able to show it to you guys. I thank you so much for watching the unboxing. This one was a little longer than normal because there was quite a bit to go through. But thank you so much for your support. I'll see you in the next episode or video. And as always, guys, keep on rolling solo.